Have you ever stopped to think how apparently secular political decisions can echo prophecies written thousands of years ago? In 2018, when Trump moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, he wasn't just doing diplomacy. He was, perhaps unknowingly, fulfilling a role that was written long before he was born. When a former American president and a millennial prophecy meet, the world isn't prepared for what might happen. We're talking about Donald Trump, the Third Temple, and a prophetic convergence that could define humanity's destiny in the coming years. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, something extraordinary happens. God calls a pagan king, Cyrus of Persia, my anointed. Not a prophet, not a priest, a political leader who didn't even know the God of Israel. Why? Because Cyrus made possible something that seemed impossible: the return of Jews to Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the temple. The question echoing through prophetic corridors is this: could Trump be a modern Cyrus, a divine instrument used to prepare the way for the most significant event in prophetic history, the construction of the Third Temple? And if you're finding this connection as fascinating as I am, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because we're diving into territories where politics and prophecy meet in ways that will shake your perspective on current times. The embassy transfer wasn't just a diplomatic gesture. It was the official recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's indivisible capital by the world's greatest power. For the first time since the Roman Empire, a superpower publicly validated Jerusalem's spiritual centrality. Coincidence? Prophetic scholars don't believe in coincidences of this magnitude. They see patterns, and the pattern emerging is frighteningly familiar. God using secular leaders, even controversial ones, to advance his eternal purposes. Cyrus of Persia allowed the rebuilding of the Second Temple. Trump recognized Jerusalem. And now, in 2025, we're seeing unprecedented movements toward the Third Temple. The sacred vessels are ready. The priests are trained. The red heifer has been approved. Only one thing remains: political authorization. The historical parallel is striking. Cyrus issued a decree that revolutionized Israel's history. Trump made declarations that revolutionized Middle Eastern geopolitics. Both faced massive opposition. Both were considered unlikely instruments for divine purposes. But here's what makes all this even more intriguing. Jewish tradition has a specific perspective on when the Messiah should come. And this perspective is intimately connected with the temple's rebuilding. Some rabbis interpret the signs of the times through complex calculations based on sabbatical cycles and jubilees. According to these interpretations, we're entering a critical period, a time when what was destroyed must be restored, when what was scattered must be gathered. The year 2025 isn't just a date on the calendar for these scholars. It's seen as a prophetic turning point, a moment when events that seemed impossible begin to materialize. And Trump? He may be back in power exactly when these prophetic convergences are accelerating. It's not just about American or Israeli politics. It's about the fulfillment of promises made by God millennia ago. What makes this situation unique is that historically, great biblical events were never fully understood while they were happening. Moses' contemporaries didn't understand they were witnessing a nation's formation. Jesus' contemporaries didn't realize they were seeing the fulfillment of hundreds of messianic prophecies. Could we now be in the middle of something equally monumental without fully perceiving its magnitude? If you're following along, leave a comment below with your perspective. Do you see these connections as coincidence or prophetic fulfillment? Because what we'll explore next will challenge our understanding even more about how God operates in history. Archaeology has been a powerful ally in validating biblical events. The Cyrus cylinder, discovered in the 19th century, historically confirms the decree that allowed Jewish exiles to return. It's not legend, it's documented history. This establishes a crucial precedent. When the Bible describes God using secular leaders for his purposes, it's not speaking in metaphors. It's describing a divine operational pattern that repeats throughout history. The book of Daniel gives us an even deeper perspective on how God operates through human kingdoms and governments. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Trump was removed in 2020. Now he may be being re-established in 2025. From a biblical perspective, this isn't just American politics. It's divine orchestration operating through human systems. But why would God use controversial leaders? Why not choose universally admired and respected people? The answer lies in the divine character itself. God chooses what the world considers weak to confuse what is strong. He chooses what is despised to nullify what is valued. Cyrus was a pagan conqueror. David was a shepherd. Paul was a church persecutor. Peter was an impulsive fisherman. God has a track record of using unlikely people to accomplish extraordinary purposes. The third temple isn't just an architectural matter. It's an eschatological matter. It represents the convergence point between earth and heaven, between time and eternity, between humanity and divinity. The temple measurements are already defined, based on Ezekiel's vision. Materials are being prepared. The location is known. The only remaining variable is the right timing from a divine perspective. What if that moment is approaching? What if the political movements we see are actually preparations for something much bigger than we imagine? The Temple Mount is Earth's most disputed property, sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Any change there has potential to impact billions of people. It's not something that can be done by chance or political whim. It needs a unique convergence of factors: political will, regional stability, prophetic timing, spiritual preparation. And for the first time in 2,000 years, all these factors are aligning simultaneously. Trump, like Cyrus, may not fully comprehend the role he's playing. Cyrus wasn't a theologian. He was a political strategist, but his decisions had eternal consequences he could never have predicted. The difference is that now we have complete prophetic scriptures. We can see the patterns. We can recognize the convergences. We can understand that we're possibly witnessing the fulfillment of prophecies that previous generations could only imagine. The book of Acts tells us that God determined the previously appointed times and the boundaries of people's habitation. Nothing is happening by chance. Everything is being orchestrated according to a plan that transcends human understanding. But this doesn't make us passive spectators. It makes us conscious participants in a unique historical moment. It invites us to examine our own spiritual preparation for what may be coming. The third temple will divide humanity. For some, it will be a sign of approaching final redemption. For others, it will be a source of conflict and tension. For everyone, it will be undeniable evidence that we're living in unique prophetic times. The construction won't just be about stones and mortar. It will be about faith and expectation, about ancient promises finding modern fulfillment, about the invisible becoming visible. Trump may be just an instrument, but instruments in God's hands have repeatedly transformed the course of human history. Moses' staff was just wood until it was used to part the Red Sea. David's stone was just rock until it brought down Goliath. What if Trump's decisions are just political until they're used to prepare for the greatest spiritual event in modern history? The tension we feel when considering these possibilities isn't accidental. It's the intuitive recognition that we're living in extraordinary times, that the next political decisions may have eternal consequences. The prophet Habakkuk wrote, "For I am working a work in your days that you will not believe, though it be told you." Perhaps we're in the middle of a work so extraordinary that our minds can't yet fully process its magnitude. Before we finish, I want to hear from you. Like this video if it expanded your perspective on the times we're living in. Share in the comments. Do you see Trump as a modern prophetic instrument? Or are these just interesting political coincidences? History is never written by events while they're happening. It's written by the perspective we gain afterward, when we can see how all the pieces fit into the bigger plan. Maybe in 2030 we'll look back and see 2025 as the year everything changed. The year when ancient prophecy met modern fulfillment. The year when a former American president and a millennial temple met at history's axis. The temple isn't just a construction. It's a symbol of final restoration, of reconciliation between heaven and earth, of the promise that God hasn't forgotten his promises, no matter how much time passes or how impossible their fulfillment seems. And if we're really approaching that moment, then regardless of our political perspective or religious denomination, we're all about to witness something that will define the rest of human history. The question isn't whether we're ready for it. The question is whether we'll recognize it when we see it, whether we'll have eyes to see and ears to hear when the impossible begins to become reality. Because when politics touches the eternal, when human decisions align with divine purposes, when the temporal serves the eternal, we witness something that transcends our capacity for understanding, but not our capacity for faith. The future isn't being written, it's being revealed.